Bam. What's up, my Instagram fam? Long time no speaky tooey. It's been a minute. I apologize for that. I've been dealing with some things, man. I've been swapping careers, getting out of what I had been doing for years and years and years, and moving on to bigger and better and way more fun things. So I apologize for the little hiatus here. I am hopefully about to be jumping back in, man, and shooting some more videos for you guys, putting some content out, doing some fun stuff, buying and selling some cool knives. I've actually been doing some of that here recently. I've been buying a lot of knives and doing some trading and kind of trying to get back into the game, man. I've been really super busy and had a lot of life changes, guys, but hopefully old BKG's back, and I'm very excited about it. I miss you guys, man. I miss all the communication with all my buddies out there from around the globe, and so hopefully I'll be back posting some regular content. I don't know if I'll dive straight in and start posting a ton of videos, but I'll definitely be getting back in, posting some videos for you guys. I'm actually in the attic right now. If you follow my Instagram, you know I've been for the last, I don't know, 3 days maybe since Friday night. Me and my sons have been doing some work in the attic, putting up some bracing, decking the floor. You can kind of see the plywood right there. We've been decking above the garage to make a more of a storage area, and I'm actually shooting a video up here because it turns out it's actually kind of decent lighting. And I was up here working, and I was cutting some plywood and doing some decking, and I realized, hey man, this isn't bad lighting. And I was thinking about knives and thinking about sharpening, and I figured, you know what, let's jump up and shoot a video right quick. So that's what I'm doing. We did some spray foam up here. We spray foamed the entire attic. If you'll bear with me, I'll actually pan you up a little bit. So this is a wall here, and then if we keep going, this is the ceiling up here. It's got the spray foam all over the attic, and so that's what we did for insulation purposes. And got it all insulated nice, so it'll be nice and comfy in my house this summer. Down here in the south, it gets super hot and humid, and if you don't have good insulation, you will sweat to death, or you will pay a gigantic power bill and still sweat to death because your AC won't keep up. Mine will, because I'm a smart man. So moving on, I was going to do a quick video for you guys about sharpening. So I had been thinking about sharpening lately. Not thinking about doing sharpening, but just thinking about sharpening in general for all you people that nitpick words. Elliot, sharp thinking. Yeah, I'd been doing a little bit of thinking about it, and so like a lot of sharpeners out there, I sometimes take things a little too far. I am a hand sharpener. I like sharpening on DMT diamond plates, and sometimes I take things a little bit far, even though it's completely unnecessary, and you kind of get in this game with yourself where you want to try to see how far you can take it. And I've been playing that game with myself for a long time. Yes, I just said I was playing with myself. Yeah, I'm playing a game with myself on how fine of an edge, how keen of an edge can I take it to? What's the limit? And apparently the limit is endless. You can go as keen as you'd like. And I have found, and a lot of people say this, and I, in my real world testing, which is very minimal, I do not do a ton of hard use cutting and stuff, but in my real world testing that I do in my everyday life, the more I sharpen and the keener that I take that edge and the finer that I take that apex, and it gets super, super fine, I tend to get a little bit less edge life. Not a huge, gigantic, noticeable difference, but it is a little bit of a difference. Say when I take it down to, 0.005 micron or what, 0.05, whatever it is. I think the lowest I've ever went was 0.05. I regularly take it to 3 micron, 1 micron. Actually, I think it's 0.5. It's not 0.05. I apologize for that. That is not true. It is 0.5, and I think I actually have some 0.25, but I have not used it yet on a strop. So I'll go on I'll bring them into frame here. Bear with me. So what I'll do sometimes is You know, you guys know if you've watched my videos before, I really like the DMT line of sharpening plates and the diafolds, the little thin diafolds that flip open almost like a butterfly knife. Love those. I really like these DMT DiaSharp plates. These are you can get the set of 4, which I highly recommend. Extra coarse, and then it goes coarse, and then fine, and then extra fine. It's a set of 4. I really recommend them. I can't tell you how much I love these things. There's no way I could tell you. All I can say is they're awesome. If you buy them, you will not regret it. Anyone who likes to sharpen will tell you probably the same thing if they've had any experience with them. They are great plates. They do the freaking job really well. But anywho, usually I'll run the gambit here. If I really have some edge damage and need to get it out, I'll use the extra coarse for a minute. But majority of the time it's the coarse and the fine. But sometimes I'll go extra coarse, fine, extra fine. Then I'll take it to a 3 micron strop. Then I'll take it to a 1 micron strop, and then sometimes a half micron, sometimes not. Sometimes I'll stop at 1. But if you guys have seen my videos before, or my little snippets on Instagram, I like to get my edges hair whittling sharp. It's just something I've always kind of enjoyed doing. This one is there right now. This large and Cosi Knife Art Edition is very sharp. This is an edge that I'm super proud of. I was able to get this thing, I mean, insanely hair whittling sharp. It is one of the sharpest edges I've ever put on a knife. Very proud of it. Spent a lot of time on it. But there again, if I were to take this and cut through some hard stuff like some plastic zip ties and stuff like that a couple of times, it would be as if I didn't sharpen at all. So I've started on my knives that I use a lot, the ones that I actually am going to use at work and cut stuff with, which my work has changed, but I still do cut some things from time to time, just not as much as I used to. I've started moving toward more of an aggressive edge, and I've actually found that the extra coarse DMT diamond plate and then hitting it on a strop actually provides an insanely good edge. It's really aggressive. I actually did it on this Umnumzon here. I put this, and you'll be able to see it here. Let me get it up in here in frame without knocking the tripod around. You can see how actually how aggressive it is. Can you see that? How toothy? Well, that's a burr there that I haven't removed because I literally just sharpened it a minute ago for the second time that I've put this edge on this knife, but it is extremely coarse. There you go. You can see that scratch pattern. Extremely coarse, and you can refine the apex on a strop. But that, even though this is what this video is about, is about being able to maintain an edge and being able to achieve extreme sharpness with limited supplies, and even with a very low grit stone, something that's not a super fine grit stone, something that's kind of low grit, maybe a 220 or a 300, you can still achieve a sharp edge with that. Now, it's probably, for all of these sharpening purists out there, and sometimes myself, depending on the knife we're talking about, they're going to say, oh, you can't do that. But you can. And I'm not talking about having the best edge in the world. I'm just talking about, taking say like a 340 grit or a 300 grit aluminum oxide stone and getting an edge that you can work with and something that's nice, and then stropping it on a piece of leather or stropping it on a piece of wood or even cardboard. I have these little strips that I get. They're little thin, like 1-inch wide strips. Comes in like a 3-foot piece that I buy from Hobby Lobby. It's called basswood, not balsa wood or whatever that other crap. It's actually basswood, BASS. It's a super soft wood, and then I buy these little $5 syringes from Chef Knives to Go that has this diamond paste in it, and I'll get a 3 micron and a 1 micron, and you can squirt some of that paste on there and kind of rub it around with a credit card or your driver's license and scrape it off, and it leaves a fine layer. And just on that little basswood, man, you can sharpen on like say for instance a 340 or 350 grit stone, even aluminum oxide, or even just a stone you buy from Harbor Freight for $3. you can sharpen on that stone and then strop on a 3 micron and then a 1 micron. Now you do have to, when you're sharpening, here I'll pull the stone over here where I can show you, or the plate rather. Now this Para 3 lightweight is, I dulled this for this video. It is completely dull. Let me grab a piece of paper here and see if I can even get it to cut a piece of paper. I highly doubt it because like I said, it is extremely dull. I dulled it on a plate on purpose. Let me see if I can even get it to cut a piece of paper. Not happening. That is not gonna happen. No, even if I catch it, it's just gonna slide across. I really did, like, no joke, guys, I dulled the shit out of that knife. Like, excuse my language, I'm trying not to do that, but my boys watch these videos. I apologize, Fisher and Easton. I love you. Don't talk like that. Daddy's not a bad guy. I just sometimes get excited. Elliot and Steve and Alchemy One, Kenny in the pocket. All you guys can vouch for that. You get excited too. Anywho, so I dulled the crap out of this knife just to kind of show you. You can see, look at that rolled edge, man. I actually took this thing on the coarse stone, and I'll do it again just to kind of prove a point here. And I just laid it straight down, and I just walked that baby back and forth on there just to get it really dull. So let's just say the budget sharpening deal. I had talked about that a couple of times on my channel before, and we really didn't dive completely into it. But you guys, man, if you were to go get one of those like $5, you know, 2 to 400 grit, somewhere in there, Harbor Freight, cheap stones, aluminum oxide. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to do that as easily with Maximate or you know, like your Rex 45s or something like that. I mean, you can do it. It's just going to take a little bit more time, but it's definitely doable. But even with a cheap, you know, low grit stone, it's attainable to get a good edge and be able to maintain your blades. With a cheap piece of basswood, some $5 chef knives to go, paste, some of that diamond paste, the diamond emulsion, I think is what they call it. And yeah, so anyway, you guys saw how dull this knife is. It's not cutting, and we will see with just a few passes on this plate how quickly we can get it back to sharpening. To sharpening, cutting. And we'll do just a few passes here, and we'll see what we can do. And I don't know the grit, but I will find out, and I'll post it in the information down below, the description, on what the grit of this DMT extra course is. Let's see where we are so far. I don't know how many passes that is, but it definitely is not many. And yeah, yeah, I think that'll cut. Let's see. Let me grab my paper. That was just a few passes on a knife that definitely would not cut. Look at that. It's not perfect yet. Just a few passes, but look at that. Not perfect, but it's cutting. Yeah, so let's make a few more passes. And you know, mind you, this is a DMT extra coarse. You can see the grain on that. I mean, you can see the grit. Very, very, very coarse. And the purpose for this video, guys, is for the people out there who either don't have a ton of money to be spending on sharpening supplies or just don't want to. You know, there's people like me and Super Steel Steve and Gerald from Outpost 76 and guys like that really enjoy sharpening, and they want to own all these sharpening stones and all these plates, and they want to maintain to the absolute highest level. And then you got guys that just really like using their stuff, but they're really not that big into sharpening. They don't, I mean, they'll do it and they can, but they just really don't enjoy it. You know, it's just kind of something they have to do to maintain their hobby. But it's not something that they really like. And this is the video that I was making for those types of dudes that, you know, they just want something that can maintain their stuff and keep their knives sharp, and they're the kind of guy that uses their knives. They don't let their stuff sit in a safe, but they just want to, you know, they just want to maintain their stuff and keep it working, you know. That's paper is like the shittiest paper ever that you could try to use to make a point when it comes to a sharp knife. But anyway, so a few passes on an extra course, getting it, kind of, getting all those rolls out, and getting all the edge damage and all the crap from where I drug it on that. I drug it on this extra course stone earlier, like a lot, like completely edged down like that, just tore it up. And so what I was trying to prove was that you don't have to go all out and buy a whole set of DMT plates. Now, that being said, I would suggest it. I would say, if you're interested in sharpening knives, learn how to do it, at the best you can. But this is not what this is for. I get a ton of questions from guys saying, hey, I just want to keep my knives kind of maintained and sharp where I can use them at work. What would you suggest? Is there a stone that you would suggest that would do the job? Most people aren't going to ask the question, is there a set of stones, or is there a set of plates, or is there a set of steps that I need to do? Most people say, hey man, what's a good plate or what's a good stone that I can use to sharpen my knives? And that answer usually from me was, well, you really need to get a few different progressions of stones and yada yada blah blah. And I would tell people that, hey man, you really need to get a set of stones. You need to do like a 300 and then finish on a 600 and then strop. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, you actually really don't have to do that. I mean, you can be successful and have sharp knives without having to go that far with it. It's not an absolute necessity to have something that's crazy sharp. Some people just want a nice working edge. And that's what we were able to attain here. Guys, I picked like the crappiest, thinnest paper that I could find to do this with. It's out of a grill manual, and this stuff's super thin. But I'm getting the point across here. What I'm trying to show is that the knife that literally would not cut paper a minute ago now will, just with a few passes after I dulled the crap out of it. I'm doing a horrible job at showing you that, but it's doable. So if you're the type of guy that you just want to maintain your edges and you don't want to do a lot of different progressions and buy 3 or 4 different stones and a ton of different strops, you can get a low grit stone and then a decent strop. Like I've got, and I usually make all of my strops myself, and that's what we're about to do here. I'm going to strop this thing and see how much better we can get it. But this is literally a piece of freaking burn up like 2x4 with some leather off of a boot, the uppers off of a pair of Ariat boots, and I put some of that diamond paste on it, and the diamond paste lasts so long, man. I think I've loaded this thing. I've had this strop for about a year and a half. I've got like 3 or 4 of these, and I've loaded this thing maybe 3 or 4 times in a year. Maybe a few months will go by, and maybe I'll scrape a little bit on it, but not a ton. I don't put a ton of paste on it. And then another little trick that I learned, it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people say it's a bad idea, but if you feel like you have a big burr that you're kind of flipping back and forth from side to side and you can't get rid of, I'll drag it softly through some kind of soft wood, and it'll kind of tear that burr off. You don't want to put a ton of pressure on it, but it does work for me. So this side here is like a 3 micron. I believe it's about 3. This side's 1. So we'll just strop it a little bit and see if we can knock that burr off of there and see if we can get it to cut a little better, and then we're gonna call this video done. But I just wanted to do kind of just a quick video. I had been thinking about it, and I had gotten a lot of questions from people. Hey, what's a good stone to buy to maintain my stuff? What's a good plate to buy to maintain my stuff? And I really do think that this is the way to go for a lot of guys. Not for me, not for a lot of people, but yeah, look at that. Just by throwing it on a strop and getting rid of that burr. Look at that. A knife that would not cut a few minutes ago. Just a few passes on a really low grit. I don't know what that grit is, but like I said again, I'm going to put that in the description. Look, now it's cutting wonderfully. And for a lot of people out there, this is more than sharp enough. This is more than sufficient to do what they want it to do. Same thing with this here. This is that Unimzon that I did. and just very, very, very sharp. And all I did on this one, same thing, just that DMT extra coarse, and then hit it on a strop a few times, and it is more than sharp enough to do what it needs to do. And that's all I did with this one. So to answer that question for all these guys out there that asked me that question, what's the best kind of stone you can get out there to maintain your stuff? I mean, I would have to say a lower, 300 to 400 grit plate. I would suggest diamond, but if all you can afford or all you can find in your area is an aluminum oxide stone or something like that, I mean, that's fine. It will get the job done for most steels. Now, like I said, if you get some harder steels like Maximate, or Rex 121, Rex 45, M4, I mean, some really good heat-treated M390 or some good heat-treated S90V, I mean, this can be a little more troublesome. It's not really, and that's the thing about sharpening too, that a lot of people don't really, they don't really portray that the right way. They say it's harder to do. Sharpening anything is not harder to do. It just takes longer. I use the exact same method to get Maximate hair whittling sharp as I do to get freaking 440C or like an S30V or a BD1N. Same exact process, man. This XHP right here is sick. I mean, it is super sharp. And I did the exact same thing on it that I did on this S90V, and I did the same thing on it that I did on, I think this is M390, on this Snafu 2.0. Same thing, man, on this 10V right here that I've got hair whittling right now. All of it's the same thing. Some of it just takes a little bit longer to do. So when someone tells you, oh, that's a really hard steel to sharpen, or oh, that steel's impossible to sharpen, that's a load of crap. You are rubbing a freaking piece of steel on an abrasive. It is not hard to do. If you can sharpen, some cheap old Chinese stainless steel, then you can sharpen Maximate. You can sharpen Rex. You can sharpen anything. It just takes a little bit more time to do. So the using the word harder to sharpen, I don't think is a fair thing to say. It just takes a little bit more time. It's the exact same process. And just about any abrasive out there will cut just about any steel. I mean, it's, and then of course there's going to be some exceptions to that. Some of your really super cheap, crappy, aluminum oxide stones may not cut the hardest of blade steels out there, and, but it will abrade it. It just might take a little bit longer to do it. So anyway, man, I'm sorry this has been a 23-minute long video of me rambling. I'm trying to get back into shooting videos. I miss you guys. I miss the community. And I just wanted to kind of jump back in it with that because I had been thinking about it lately, and I had been thinking about me taking my edges to these super, super, super keen edges and then using them for working and them not lasting super long because I roll them or I put flat spots on them. And then I got to thinking, man, some of the best edges I've had are some of those super toothy, aggressive 400 grit edges that I banged on a strop a few times and got them feeling good. So anyway, I just thought I would discuss it for a minute, man. Sharpening can be super cheap, super easy, and it's something that all knife guys and gals should know how to do. So that being said, guys, I think that's about it. Also, this is about to go up for sale too. I bought this the other day on a whim, just freaking for the crap of it. And this is one of those monkey edge. It's called, excuse my language, it's the thick ass Tonto grind is literally what it's called. It's got the frag, it's got that beautiful pattern on the titanium frame lock side. Very nice knife, and I think this one's about to be hitting the dusty trail. So if you're interested in this one, hit me up. But without further ado, also real quick, thank my buddy Super Steel Steve for this infraction. I've been carrying the crap out of this knife. I love it very much. Steve's my boy. We met over at the Alabama-Georgia line not long ago. I gifted him an Umnumzon that he had been wanting for a long time, and then he hooked me up with this kind of as a he's playing get back. He had to get me back with something, but anyway, that's it, guys and gals. I love you. You know the deal. I'm out.